Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. On today's podcast, I want to take the chance to catch up with one of our regular ex-Reds to get their thoughts on the season just gone and, crucially, what might happen next. So with that in mind, it's great to have Lewis McGugan on today. Lewis, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Bit kind of getting over the kind of weekend and the last game, and it's one of those things. But yeah, all good. Move on now and look forward to the future, really.
Yeah, and we've just done two dads navigating half-term chat as well, so it might be a bit of a relief to talk some football. I don't know, but let's look back on Sunday a little bit. The season gone. How do you reflect on? I guess how do you reflect on Sunday, and then how do you reflect on the season? They're probably two separate questions.
Yeah, I think Sunday was disappointing for everyone connected. Really, I think it was kind of had a lot of conversations before the game. It was that scenario that you didn't want to happen, where potentially we don't kind of take maximum points and another team like Villa and Newcastle slip up, and you just think kind of that what if, and unfortunately that was the scenario that happened. So I think it was one of those things. I looked at watching the game. I think most people have looked at it and thought, once they probably scored, we probably wasn't that confident of we going to go and get 2 goals, really. And I think that's potentially where over this last probably 2 months of the season, at times we've just maybe felt that a little bit, where I think we needed to score first on Sunday, and I think once we kind of went behind, I think it was a difficult task to go and at least get 3 points from the game.
On the podcast yesterday with Temps and P and everyone who contributed on the post-match shows, regulars, we did our marks out of 10 for the season, and it kind of put a bit of perspective on it all of how successful it was. There were loads of 9 out of 10s. What kind of number would you be thinking to kind of sum it all up?
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think when you look at it from the bigger picture of the season, it's been a tremendous season. I think the last kind of, like I said, the last 6 to 8 weeks has obviously put a little bit of a different outlook on it if you look at it in that isolated incident. But from a whole, from where we are, where we started, if anyone had said that kind of before a ball was kicked at the start of the season, everyone would have been absolutely over the moon. So I think we can't forget that. We can't forget how bigger strides we've made as a team, as a football club, on and off the pitch. And yes, we would have liked to kind of finish it off in style, but that's football, and sometimes it doesn't go your way. It's now, I think it's important to have a good summer. The squad have a really good break, which they fully really deserved. And the club and the manager tries to do his best to get a squad together that he feels that they can kick on again.
We'll come on to the squad. I'll ask you the same questions that I asked the others, actually, just to get your take on it. Throw some names at me for the following. Who was your player of the season?
We were speaking about it, watching a game, and I think it's really. I think there's been so many standout performances. I think Nico, kind of the back end, I think he's been terrific. I think Aina obviously has been really good. I think he probably is. As kind of that last 6 to 8 weeks probably dropped off a little bit, and there's injuries in that, and maybe came back a little bit too early. We never know. But for large parts, he's been really good. I think the goalkeeper's been fantastic. I think he's kept us and saved points throughout the season in such pivotal moments. I always think about the Liverpool game at home, and Salah on another night, it could have been a completely different score. And they're the little things that keep that momentum, keep that positive spirit. So I think the keeper, I think Milenkovic has done fantastic. I think he's come in alongside Murillo and made Murillo better, and I think he's made that partnership better. So I think you're kind of looking at them two, Milenkovic and Sells, really, and I think it's really difficult. It's always a difficult one. I've seen Milenkovic got it on Sunday, but I'd probably say overall, I'd probably say Sells for more kind of standout moments.
Most improved player. A lot of people pick Sells for that. Who would you say for that one?
Yeah, I think obviously there was a lot of conversation and talk about Sells, even when he came in, and even in the summer, about potentially talking about goalkeepers. And I think we're a long way away from kind of them goalkeeping conversations on every pods we seem to do, and that just shows the kind of effect that he's had long term over this period, that he's really made that area really calm and quiet, which is a credit to him. So I look at most improved. You probably look at Nico in terms. I think he's not that he's performed poorly before, but when he came back in the team, I think he went to another level. So I think his improvement, kind of that back end of the season, has been a standout.
Next one we did was goal of, and then it was a couple of contenders. Who would you pick for that one?
What was the contenders?
The main ones. Well, there was two that stood out: Elanga at United and Callum at Anfield. Those are the two that got the most votes.
Okay. And I think when you also look at, I think you look at goals and everyone's, when you always think what's your best goal, and sometimes I get asked that question, what's your best goal? Is Ipswich. But also what goes into that is the moments. It's sometimes the moments what that goal does. So it might not be the best on the eye, but it's what does that do for the team? What does that do for the season? So I think if you look at them goals potentially at the moment, I think those big goals. You look at Elanga's at that time against his old club, kind of under the lights. I think that was a very big moment for himself, but also for the club. So yeah, I'd say Elanga's is up there.
And then the last one we did was that also came down to Anfield or Brighton at home. Those brothers thrown in, but they got the two most votes. Would those be your thinking?
Sorry, I lost you then. Sorry, I didn't quite get the full question.
The season, it was a lot of people either went or 7-0 at home to Brighton. Were those your two or something else?
Yeah. I think they are the standouts. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't disagree with them.
So ahead a little bit to next season, and I wanted to pick Lou's brain to evolve away from the lower. I love it because I do, but it presents a few issues we saw just around the reliance of players, and if it strains them, playing the same way without the ball all the time. So I've got just a couple of slides that I'll just put up to just show how reliant we were. This is most Premier League minutes played, and you can see Forest, this is the top 10 players per team, over 3,000 minutes. 3,420 is the maximum, 90 minutes in 38 games. Over 3,000. Chris Wood very close to that. And even Hudson-Odoi, 2,200. So if you just bear that in mind of people who are watching, you can see Forest have quite a big reliance compared to Chelsea. First of all, they had 4 players or 5 players really high, but then they had a big drop off once you get past Robert Sanchez. So they had more rotation around that core group of 5. Newcastle, quite similar. 3 players, only 2 players over 3,000, with Fabian Schär quite close to that. And then again, there's more rotation. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you check it out on YouTube, you can see more, but more rotation once you get past that top 4 or 5. Man City's just ridiculous. They had a player coming in with under two players coming on with under 2,000 minutes in Lewis and Foden in their top 10. Only Vardiol played over 3,000 minutes compared to almost 5 players. And then finally, Villa had 3 players playing 3,000, and then Concert not far off. And then again, a big rotation. And I suppose, Lewis, the point it makes is we've got 7 players playing over I think it was over 2,007 minutes, so 2,700 minutes. Just a real reliance, and not 4 or 5 players, but really 9 or 10 players. Is that something that you think might have to evolve, or will Nuno just stick with that next season?
Yeah, completely. I think it will have to change. I think if you look at it through the kind of slides that you put up and the information there, is that most teams you have a core of 4 or 5, and that core will normally be kind of the goalkeeper, the 2 centre halves, and maybe your 2 centre midfield players, or another. But normally your spine potentially will be kind of 4 or 5. Obviously, if you look at us on that, we have got a few more around there, and it just shows again how important the lads have been. But I think potentially that's probably been our Achilles heel at kind of the last end of the running, where we've just probably ran out of steam a little bit. Them boys have done terrific, and they've played some big volume of minutes and games, which mentally is draining and physically is draining. And I think if you look at that and you look at kind of our results and our performances over this last little bit, potentially that's where we've just come a little bit unstuck, really, where we've just probably relied on that core a little bit too much, and at times they've needed a little bit of help, and we just haven't had that luxury to have that. So moving forward, I think that's something that the manager will hopefully try and change and try and see if that he can help that core there with a bit more help.
Do you think it's probably a two-part question again? Do you think teams worked us out and stopped giving us counter-attacks? And then do you think there's a lot of criticism about Nuno not really having a plan B? And I've said this on the podcast. I think he did, but we didn't quite have enough to execute what he probably wanted to open teams up. So two questions. Do you think teams worked us out? And do you think Nuno had that plan B that he needed or not?
When you think teams work, that's their job, isn't it? That's what they do. That's it. It's trying to work the opposition out and trying. So that's what you're always going to get. So I think that's what football is about. You teams, different managers and players aren't going to let you do what you want to do. Aren't going to let you just keep turning up week in, week out and looking at your strengths and go on then. We're going to try and nullify your strengths. So I think that's part and parcel. That will happen throughout the season, where you have to tinker with it. And your other question in terms of did he have another plan? I think he did, but I think on that, as a manager, you need help with that. You need a little bit of a different squad with that. You need different personnel, different characteristics to change and have them different plans. And I think the plan that we had and what we went with for majority, I think it was really, really good. But at times when the manager maybe wants to change it, has he quite got that personnel to change it completely? And I don't think on a whole as a squad, I don't think he had.
Yeah. Because I think, like, when you think back to when we first came up, we really couldn't keep the ball. We couldn't progress the ball. I thought this season, up until probably the final third, when you look at players like Anderson, Hudson-Odoi in particular, you can give those players the ball in any area and they'll probably keep it. I think the problem probably was when we got in those positions I haven't looked at this, but the amount of chances we created, it felt lower than other teams, the amount of big chances we created. And there was just this core reliance on, I know Gibbs-White created the most and he was up there in the Premier League, but it's just that, is it just that final little phase, do you think, that is what we have to work on?
Yeah, the differences in any league when you want to kind of climb them to that next stages are both boxes, and I think again defensively, I think we've been really, really good. I think the improvements there, and I think attacking wise for most of the season we've been really good. The problem is when you're in them kind of top four, when you're in them attacking positions, a lot of the time it's confidence, things go your way, and at times we've all been there this season where things have just gone our way. Things have landed to Chris Wood, and we've hit shots, it's come out. Sometimes that happens, but in that top area, there's some luck involved in there, and sometimes things don't go your way, and things just don't quite fall in the box for your players. And sometimes that's when potentially you just need a little bit of a different spark, a little bit different face, a little bit different look. Maybe do we stretch the game a little bit and we have maybe a number 9 that can stretch it that way, and it just changes the dynamic of things a little bit. So I think that top end, say for large parts, we've been terrific. But again, that's the top end is when you need the most kind of changes, when you need to kind of freshen it up a lot more. And I just don't quite think we've had that opportunity. The manager's had the opportunity to freshen it up as much as I think he would like.
Biggest transfer priority then is, I guess we're going to need a striker, but is the biggest transfer priority a little bit of a forward, a winger, a creative spark, especially if Morgan goes? Is that where you're really looking in the transfer window?
Yeah, I think the transfer window was going to be big, regardless of where everything finished. I think again, this squad has took us to this stage, and I said they've overachieved and they've done very, very well. It's now time for them to get a little bit of help. We attract them players that to come in, and I think that top end is something that we need to look at. We all know about the striker situation that we need. I think that's not a big secret. We spoke about that numerous times. I think if you look at Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, more Hudson-Odoi in terms of how many games can he play. Towards the end of the season, he missed a lot of games, so can potentially get another caliber of player who can play off either side to help them. And yes, if Morgan goes, which still remains to be seen, if he goes, then we need potentially that number 10. But I look at Anderson and I still think, I know he's played that deeper role, but I feel that he can play that role. But again, that's up to the manager how he sees it, and he might earmark someone else to come in for that role if Morgan decides to leave. But I think that's a question we kind of have to decide if he does leave, and that we remain to see if that would happen.
Yeah. If you listen to this and you haven't heard the John Percy interview from yesterday, do check it out. I asked John about Morgan and the other players who might go, and obviously he's one of the best in the business, and his thinking is Morgan will go. He did kind of suggest, or more than suggest, that Chelsea or other teams might want Murillo. So I really hope we don't sell him. I've sort of made my peace with Morgan going, and then he also talks about more fringe players going as well, with some, we discussed the players who might come in around Delap and McAtee, Mateus Fernandes from Southampton, players like that. So do check that out if you haven't already. We'll take a word for the Trent navigation, and then after that I want to put some potential teams to Lewis, a potential change in shape for next season, and get his thoughts on that. But just before that, a quick word for the Trent navigation.
Not only have they created something fantastic, where they've created like an identity around a pub that had been there a very long time. They've like given it this new lease of life. That's become an extension of the ground, really, the Big Shed. That he's so funny, man. That advert. And I tell you what, the pies look great. I'm jealous of people who have season tickets. I'm jealous of people who get to go to the Big Shed or the Trent Nav on the regular. I'm just like, man, I just want to sit in that pub all day. I want to drink. I think they had Bass on tap there. 10 pints of Bass, 10 cobs, a pie. Go home to have the best sleep you've ever had.
Lovely stuff as ever. Right, just before we get to those teams, I did pick out a few extra stats when I was nosing around the Premier League website. There's a good Twitter thread by Callum Castell, who people who on Twitter will know, around more detailed stats than this, but I just picked out a few. Chris Wood, fourth joint top scorer with 20 goals. I think he played less minutes than the players who outscored him. Anthony Elanga, third for assists with 11 in the whole Premier League. Some of these stats suggest Murillo was our best defender here. Murillo, third most blocks, 45. Joint second for last man tackles. Top in the whole Premier League for clearances, 242. Sixth for headed clearances. Seventh headed clearances, Milenkovic was sixth. And then he also showed up very well in headers won. And then a couple of other ones. Elliot Anderson, eighth most for tackles, and Chris Wood, most headed goals scored. So our players showed up really well throughout the season, but it's interesting. A few names in particular, especially Murillo, but Elanga as well. Right, let's have a look at a couple of teams and options for next season, and I'll get Lewis's thoughts on those. Right, this is how we could line up next season, potentially. Lovely stuff from carrying on from this season. This familiar back five: Anderson and Sangare, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White in support of Chris Wood. That is assuming Morgan stays. Then you have an option. Obviously, you need a new number 10 with no Morgan Gibbs-White. Then you could play Elliot Anderson, but then you've got other conundrums around who plays behind him. Dominguez will want to have a say in that, and obviously Ibrahim Sangare. And then I'll ask Lewis about a change in shape. So I just want to ask about a couple of players. Let's talk as if Morgan is going for now, because obviously we want him to stay. But if he does, Anderson as a number 10. Do you see enough there, or are you still a little bit to be convinced?
Yeah, listen, I'm not sitting here saying that he's dead on for that number 10. I think it's a role that he can play. I think he would play it a little bit different to Morgan. I think they have different attributes and playing in there. I think, but I think it's a role that he could go and he's got the ability and the characteristics to go in there and be effective. But again, the manager might like him from that deeper area. I know at times, especially these kind of last few months, he's played a lot kind of off a side, which the manager likes to see him do. So yeah, listen, I think he is a player that can play all three midfield positions and that kind of be the number 10 or kind of the 2-8s. But also I think he could kind of sit and be that kind of one that one pivot as well with two in front of him. I actually think he has that ability and with more kind of responsibility on him with his age, I think he can get better and better.
Let me ask you about a couple of other players. I mean, Nico Dominguez doesn't show up on this many of these graphics, but he had a great season. The other one, Sangare, is absolutely, I mean, flavour of the month isn't how to describe him, but fans are really loving his work since he came back in. It's interesting. Kelv was on Monday, and he said he'd done well, but he wanted to see more. I'm interested to get your take on him. Do you want to see either more of him, more from him, or are you sold on him?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's come in and I think he's done well. I think he's given us a different look. What I would say is he's very good at trying to play the ball forward. A lot of the time, especially the West Ham game, he was first front was okay. Let's play, getting into little pockets for Morgan and that. So he's done really well at kind of being that difference. Where potentially with midfielders we had before, we haven't quite got that kind of first pass straight away. He does look, once it kind of breaks down and on transition, he's trying to get that forward pass into between them lines, into them players, whether it's Morgan or Anderson. So I think he's done really well on that. I think he's made a positive impact. I think it would have been easy for him to come in out the cold and be trusted in them kind of final few games. So I don't think he's done his case any kind of wrongdoing at all. I think he's helped his case, but on the bigger picture, I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure kind of how he looks moving forward. Is he kind of that important role in there? I just think potentially for us to go to that next level, we've always spoke about that kind of difference maker in that engine room, and I'm not quite sure. Even though, like I said, he's come in and he's had a good impact, I still haven't seen enough yet where I feel that he can make that next step to take this team to that next level. And that's just from my point of view of what I've seen. Listen, I don't think the price tag, I don't think that's ever helped him, and that's something potentially when you're looking at players right or wrong, that will be a part of their kind of when you give them the verdict. So I don't think that's helped him at all. And I think, like I said, he's had a lot of stop-start injuries in there, and he's not really got going. I think with him coming in, he's done okay. And like I say, that kind of on transition, that first pass forward, I think he's done that quite well. But overall, I still need to see a lot more from him for whether to say he's that kind of piece to take this team to that next level.
Does he have to play number 6? I mean, people have said he could play as a number 8, but the issue around him is off the ball, box to box. Is that not his game? I'm still not exactly certain what his best position is. I guess it's number 6, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think again that's a key thing looking at it. I think we're still kind of having them questions. We're quite not sure really where he kind of is going to sit there as a 6. Yes, I think physically, in terms of the characteristics, I think it helps, but I'm just not sure the way he moves the ball throughout the game is enough for kind of being that kind of playmaker to come through. As an 8, yes. I'm not sure kind of if he's kind of talking halfway kind of that forward, what does he bring in that? I don't know if I've seen enough that he can kind of bring that attacking bit. So I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult really to pinpoint where you kind of see him, because I'm not quite sure he's convinced me in them roles really yet. Like I said, I think he's shown little bits that are okay. But again, for me, the bigger picture, we're always talking about how does this team go to that next level, and we're talking about midfield. For me, the midfield is vital. That is your engine room. That is so important to get right. And you normally look at teams that keep kind of climbing them next stages. You always look at their midfield and do they kind of continue to improve that and get that little bit of extra quality. And I think we need that. I think the club still needs to look for that because yes, I've gone with Anderson. I think he's in there, but I still think we need that. We need that extra piece.
This leads sort of into one of the other things I was thinking. Again, if Morgan goes, and we all hope he stays, but if he were to go, does it give an opportunity to change shape slightly and play a three-man midfield? And in here, again, I've got the same back five because we don't want that to change. I've put Dominguez, Sangare and Anderson in there with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi alongside Wood. And then that would be sort of the Newcastle, Joel Linton, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes thing, where they're all sort of number 8s, number 10s, number 6s. They do a bit of everything. And then Arsenal have got Rice and Partey, who can do both, and then Odegaard, who isn't really a 10 and plays very close to Saka. So it does open up a few different options, and Villa do it as well, I think. Would that be interesting to you to make us a more complete all-round team, potentially?
Potentially. I think it's things that you can look at. I think if you look at the Newcastle's three, I think probably as a midfield three in terms of all, when they play together, probably the way they link up, the way they look, the way they move into different positions, that's probably the three that are probably stand out at this point in time, I would say, in the Premier League. I think for man, I think they're probably top of the tree. I think they complement each other the best out of all the teams in that area. But again, the big thing about them, they can all do pretty much a little bit of everything. There's not really that kind of ones who sit in there and you expect him to sit in there. Bruno sometimes obviously drops in there, then Tonali goes and drops in there. So if we look at potentially if Morgan goes, but I've always thought Morgan's played very well when he's played from deep. I think when he plays from deep, I think he's had some of his best games. But again, that might be something that we're not privy to, where potentially he don't see himself there, the manager don't see him there. But I've always been quite a fan when he drops that deeper role. But I think if you can get a midfield three that complement each other, that aren't really pigeonholed into certain roles, that can all kind of blend and do a little bit of everything, I think straight away you're going to get a better chemistry and a better look. And I think you look at Dominguez. I've said on numerous times before, he's a player that the manager trusts, and every squad has it, every manager has it. That a player that in big games that no one really expects them to play, they're always on that team sheet, and he's that player for the manager. And I think he's got better and better as the season's gone on, and kind of contributed a lot more with his kind of importance to the team. So I think he can offer a lot more next season. But again, I think if you can look at, you maybe continue trying to change it. If Morgan does leave, if you can get a midfield that kind of complement and can combine well together, but all of them can do a little bit of everything, I think you stand yourself in good stead.
Yeah, I totally agree about Morgan playing deeper. I thought he had his best game, some of his best games. I thought we looked most effective as a team, actually, some of the time when he played deeper. So I hear that, which leads on to I've done one more, and again, I've left a gap in midfield. I've left Dominguez out. I could have left Sangare out. I just wanted to make the point that there might be an area there where you sign one and add one in, and I'm sure Ryan Yates and Danilo will want to have a say on this as well. Elliot Anderson feels the only one that's nailed, and I took Chris Wood off this one because he's 33. He's going to be 34 towards the end of next season, and he's played 3,000 minutes, and we're going to be in Europe. You can't really rely on Chris to play that many minutes because probably maybe his form fell off a little bit towards the end of the season through injury and volume of minutes as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think he'll be ready for the summer break. That's for sure. Because I'm definitely convinced that his body will be screaming at the minute. Like I said, he's obviously getting to that age. He's played so many minutes. He's kind of always played as that 9, which in them games he takes a battering off the centre halves, and all these things will add up to it. He's put a real shift in throughout the season, and that's what it is now. It's trying to look at the kind of additions we can make, and it's not a case of, right, we need to get these out and get these new players in. It's to help them. It's to help the squad. It's to make the squad better, where we can kind of swap and change a little bit, and we can make that kind of drop off not as big. And it's to help the players that have put us into this position now, where we maybe don't need you to go and play 40 plus games now back to back. It's like where we can maybe look after you a little bit more, keep you a little bit more fresh, and we've got personnel in that squad now who can come in and kind of take the team on for a little bit more while you're resting. So I think that's the importance that we have to realise, really. It's not a case of, right, we need these additions to kind of get all these people out. It's no, we need to kind of get them in to help this current group, this current kind of squad, and make it easier for them to be fresher for more times throughout that season.
Yeah, and one other thing about Chris, I don't know, I always try and emphasise on here that players are human, and you'll emphasise it more as well. But his wife had a baby not very long ago, so I imagine he's getting less sleep. I don't know if you had that, when you were playing, Lou, or teammates did, but I suppose that's a small factor in it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. It's just normal everyday things that we all go through, and I think, again, as a footballer, it's no different. I think sometimes probably potentially people forget that it happens, or they might think, they've got people to kind of take that away from them and look after them. But at the end of the day, they're still parents. You know what I mean? That's what they are, and they want to be kind of around. So they've got to kind of make sure that when them situations and them fantastic things happen, and you become a parent, it has a little bit of a difference, because you've now got something else to add into your kind of schedule, where potentially before you'd literally just go training, and all you have to think about from a selfish point of view, where you can just go and do your kind of recovery. You can stay at the training ground till later than you would do, but you're just thinking about yourself really at that point in time. Once you become a parent, all different responsibilities come into it. So all these little things that change and have a little bit of a bearing on how your kind of schedule looks and how your recovery looks. And over time, which is a good thing now, over the summer, where we'll get that kind of initial block of break, it's just trying to make sure how best they can do that as a family, but also make sure that he's ready and firing to do his job.
Just on the new striker, I'm sure we obviously do need one. Taiwo, we have to let him recover and give him all the time he needs. So he's kind of out of the picture at the moment, certainly. What kind of option would you like us to sign? As someone who's the same profile of Chris, so we can play the same way, or does it have to be someone different, do you think?
I think it just depends on the market. I think it depends on the market and what's available. I think if you look at the characteristics of Chris, potentially that helps you to kind of like for like. But again, when we spoke about at the start of the conversation, there's a lot of conversation about, has the manager got a different plan? Has he got a plan B, plan C? And that's maybe where we go away from that kind of striker, that look of a striker, and have something different. Maybe that who's going to play on the kind of last line and stretch defenders, and which allows the space for the likes of Anderson and hopefully Gibbs-White to get even more space in them pockets. So that might be a different thing. But I think it will come down to what's available on the market and what's available and best for the football club.
Just going back and just looking quickly at the other parts of not the team, but the squad. What else do you think we need? I guess I'm angling here, a better fullback option to compete with those two lads, even a second goalie if there's some question marks against Miguel, even another centre half in case one of those two lads gets injured. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if we look at it from a whole and potentially the additions, I think if we look at Nico and maybe Aina, I think they can hopefully go and kind of fight it out for that right back. But I think we potentially need a left foot. And what it does, it's not so much it just gives you a bit more balance having a left footed left back. It sounds so simple, but it does. And like I said, I think Nico's been fantastic, and I think he's done such a great job there. But I think just having that left foot and left back in there just gives the team a little bit more balance. I think, again, you look at the centre backs, I think they've been terrific. As you look beneath there, you look at Morata. Okay, still not sure on that. More so if we play a kind of a back four. A lot of the times he's played in a back three, which I think, okay, he might be more comfortable in that. But what is he like in a back four? So I think definitely potentially another centre half who can kind of keep that area looking fresh. And yeah, you look about the goalkeepers. Obviously, we've got the number 2 in now, but there's been a bit of talk about potentially he might be looking to kind of go elsewhere and play. So listen, that might open up. But yeah, we remain to see that. But I think, again, the keeper's been fantastic, and they'll be ready to come back next season and show and carry on the performances he's had this year.
Yeah, just on the centre halves, obviously, I'll just tell people we've got Tyler Bindon, who's done really well for Reading. People are absolutely raving about him. I can't believe 99% of the people are raving about him, seeing him play. So I don't want to put too much pressure on him because he's done so well at Reading. But if we drop Morata in at Reading, I'm sure he'd do really well there. So looking forward to see how he develops. David Carmo is the other one who's at Olympiacos, who might well come back now. I'm speaking to an Olympiacos podcast on Monday to get their thoughts on him. I've spoken to him before, and they said he hasn't done quite as well as hoped. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Just lastly, Lou, before we let you go, thoughts on the Conference League? Kelvin wasn't too enthused about it, to say the least, really, on Monday. He thought it wouldn't really help with recruitment or anything. I would say, and then John Percy was really enthused, and so we've had really conflicting views. This isn't the correct pots because I haven't updated them, but I just thought I'd show Lewis in general. So Lazio or Fiorentina. I think Mainz are probably in it from Germany, Strasbourg from France. It is Rayo Vallecano from Spain, I think. So, those Mainz are in there. So that's generally the principle of it. Exciting if we win it, or a pain in the arse?
I think you strip it back. It's European football. Do you know what I mean? It's a European competition. So I think we've got to be very excited that now this football club is playing in Europe. I think you look at Kelv's point. I think from a recruitment point of view, I agree. I don't think it makes a difference at all. I don't think players will be coming to play in the Conference League. That's no disrespect to the Conference League, but they won't be picking. Sometimes you get players that will pick a club because it's like they want to go and play Champions League football, and it's an opportunity to go play in Champions League football. I don't think that this competition does that, but I think it's an added thing for people when the recruitment conversations are had. Listen, it's one of those things. I think you're looking at it from different ways. It's a competition in Europe, which is kind of at the bottom of European football, but it's a great opportunity for this football club. It's a great opportunity to be in, and we can go in there. And you're looking at the teams. There's still some really kind of big teams in there, but yeah, it's an opportunity to go and potentially do well. So I think you've got to look at it from all angles, really. But yeah, it's Nottingham Forest in a European competition. So I think first and foremost, we've got to be very, very excited that we, as a football club, have got to the stage where we're playing European football.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've seen, the pictures of people celebrating winning it. Obviously, we're not saying we're going to win it, but if we can, I still think that'd be great. I don't know if you've seen, but Greg is absolutely broken by not getting in the Champions League. He's in a real mope about it all, so he still needs to cheer up, but it should be good. Right. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add on the season before we go?
No, listen, I think now the kind of dust has settled a little bit. I think it's a bit deflating on that last day because we was there. And I think that potentially if we look at it, if we maybe look at our form over the last 10 games in terms of kind of points ratio of what we've got, it doesn't look brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And again, still in the last game of the season, we still have an opportunity to get Champions League football. So I think if we look at it from that isolated incident, that last little bit of, we've dropped a lot of points and we still have an opportunity going into the last day. So maybe we let it slip there. If you look at the Brentford performance at home, Everton, then you look at Leicester. Do you know what I mean? Potential one of them goes a different way, and we're very comfortable come Sunday before kickoff. So I think that's potentially why some kind of the fan base will look at it from that aspect, and I completely understand it. I think that's maybe what has that bit of a deflating feel, because we probably let ourselves down in terms of that last little hurdle. We've done so much and so well to get us in that position, and we've just probably fell at the last hurdle when it was kind of in our hands. But when you look at it, a bigger picture, it's been a terrific season, a fantastic place to be. Everyone who's been at the City Ground, game after game, it's a great atmosphere, great environment outside the stadium. And again, that will just getting bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. So that collectively for the football club is exactly where we want to be. And that's what I mean, stripping it back. We're in European football. We've had a great season. The fan base has had a great season. It's now, again, can we kick on and have a better season, better squad, more kind of structure off the pitch, more kind of new things happening. We're in a fantastic position, a great place to be. So enjoy the summer. Let's have a little rest and be raring to go, ready for a new season.
Lovely. Lewis talks of having a little rest. I think I'm going to take 3 days off after this, or certainly no podcasts for 3 days. So we should be back on Monday, unless there's any big breaking news. But in the meantime, a little bit of a break, hopefully, bar boring admin. So if you've enjoyed this, and I really have, I love this kind of stuff. It's right on my street, all these conversations. Do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, become a channel member, and you get early access to any kind of podcast like this that's pre-recorded, or sign up for Patreon, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or iTunes. Like I say, a few days off, but if you missed the John Percy interview, it's really good. The Joe Worrell interview is really good. And then we've got obviously the reflections on the season with Kelvin, Mark, and our awards with Pete and Temps and everyone else. There's loads to catch up on if you missed anything. Lewis, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you through the summer, I'm sure. I guess no rest for you with work, or are you hard at it, or have they broken up?
I've got a couple of weeks, and then and then it's kind of break time. So I'm counting down them days, because it's been a long season, a long year. So I'm got a few more weeks, and then I'll be able to kind of switch off for a little bit. So all good.
Good stuff. Good work with the Eastwood Academy. It'll let you get on the golf course at some point. But lovely stuff. Have a good day, everyone. And if we don't see you on Monday, we shall see you soon.